Tonight on News 5 Live, The 9 men nabbed in Friday's drug plane landing and bust are taken to court. We'll tell you what they're charged with and why their attorneys say they're innocent. NICH announces its new board. A murder caught on camera as shopkeepers robbed and killed in Belmopan. And the latest changes in the curfew for minors. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
It's a fact that you can access unlimited services with Smart.
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live from Monday, February 1st. I am Marlene Cuellar. This morning in Orange Walk Town, 9 men detained since Friday morning following the crash landing of a drug plane with dozens of bales of cocaine were arraigned in that jurisdiction's magistrates court. Represented by attorneys Dickie Bradley and Leroy Banner, the men were slapped with a drug trafficking offense and for violating a quarantine regulation. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports from outside the courtroom.
9 men, including 3 law enforcement officers, were escorted to Orange Walk under heavy police guard and paraded into the magistrate's court, where they are arraigned for their alleged involvement in January 29th's drug plane incident. They were charged jointly for possession of a controlled drug with intent to supply and breach of curfew, to which they all pleaded not guilty.
The 9 accused persons were arraigned in the Magistrate Court of Senior Magistrate Merlin Moody. and they were called upon to plea, and they all pled not guilty.
The men were intercepted in the wee hours of Friday on board a boat in the Hill Bank Lagoon, which was near to the crash site. Police say they were in possession of 2 bales of cocaine.
Inside that boat were 9 men, and a search thereof yielded 2 bales of what we believe to be cocaine. The individuals on the boat was taken to the dock, where we learnt the names of the persons to be one Tyrell Talbert, who is assigned to the Special Patrol Unit as SPU, one Byron Clear, police constable assigned to K9 Unit, and I think one Steve Rowland, I think that's the name, who is a Lance Corporal in the Belize Defense Force. We also had in that vessel Dwight Madfadzen. We have another man, Clear, who is the father of PC Clear, and some other individuals. There were a total of 9 of them, as I said. We took possession of the content of the vessel and the individuals. They were brought here at Queen Street Police Station, where the 2 bales of suspected cocaine was weighed and amounted to somewhere around 64 kilos.
It is my understanding, without going into details from the accused persons, that we currently have a phrase that you could be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
But they're saying that your clients were found in possession of 2 bales of cocaine.
Possession of 2 bales. Wow. Okay, well, I guess that matter will be tested when it comes to court. All 9 of them were in possession of 2 bales? Or the 2 bales were in one of the fishing net or something? You didn't get the details.
But sir, what were these men doing in that area?
Yes, sir. What are they in the area? They were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Sir, but there's a curfew. There's a quarantine regulations in place, and there's a curfew.
Okay, prosecutor, if you hear that a plane has crashed, you would want to try and see if you could rescue somebody or try and go to the scene of a crash. There was presumably, according to something, that there was a big ball of fire and the police could smell fuel burning and so on and so forth, no? There must have been 2 pilots. I don't know if any of the 9 persons from the rural area are pilots, but the pilots, and I imagine that a lot more drugs would be in a plane that size, those were able to get away, but they were able to get some of the drugs, no?
The men were remanded to the Central Prison in Hattieville until April 6th.
A magistrate under the Crime Control Act is not able to grant bail because of the quantity of cocaine. And the law in this country, thank goodness, the law in this country is that they have a right to apply to the Supreme Court to, in fact, restore their freedom. Because you'll hear the adjourned date is way to April. Why would innocent people be in prison till April?
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
Meanwhile, over the weekend, the police discovered an additional 3 bales of cocaine. Police reportedly went looking in the Crooked Tree Lagoon, and there they found the bales of drugs, which contained a total of 90 packets. The drugs are from the drug plane that landed last week Friday. You'll recall we told you that police recovered 25 bales the day the plane landed, 23 at the crash site and 2 bales on the boat with the detained men. These 3 bring the total to 28. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams says that he is confident that the cops recovered the majority of the cargo on board the plane.
on Saturday, and we found an additional 3 bales, each bale containing 30 packs. So that's an additional 90 packs. So that will bring our total amount to 28 bales or 940 bricks. You'll know that each brick would contain either 1 kilo or in some cases they have more than a kilo. So it would bring the total fine to just over 2,000 pounds of cocaine.
So what led to that search on the lagoon?
Well, it's just a matter of us ensuring that we search the area properly. It could have been that when the police approach those persons who were in the boat, they may have thrown those 3 bales out of the boat prior to the police capturing them. I can say that from the size of the plane that came in, which is a small twin-engine plane, they could not have gone it more with too much. We believe that we were able to find over 75% of what that plane could have brought in. So whatever they took with them is not the bulk of what came in.
The selling off of public assets at a steal by the financially burdened Barrow administration in the months leading up to the November 11th general elections will be fully investigated. This morning, the persons tasked with carrying out that investigation were sworn in at the Biltmore Hotel, where the oath of office was administered by Senior Magistrate Aretha Ford. The 3-member commission of inquiry is being chaired by Senior Counsel Andrew Marshallek. Marcelo Blake and Luke Martinez are representing the business community and unions, respectively. The period under review is from 2019 to 2020, when government vehicles, office equipment, and furniture were sold at dirt cheap prices. News 5's Isani Caetano reports.
I, Edmund Andrew Marshallek, do swear that I will faithfully, fully, impartially, and to the best of my ability discharge the trust and perform the duties devolving upon me by virtue of my appointment as a commissioner on the Commissioner Inquiry into the sale of government assets. So help me God.
An investigation into the liquidation of government assets in a fire sale just prior to the last general elections will commence in the days ahead, following the swearing in of a 3-member commission of inquiry. The decision to launch a probe into the disposal of vehicles, electronic equipment, and office furniture at rock-bottom prices was taken at the cabinet level and was announced by Prime Minister John Briceño last week.
Even before the elections, we were hearing that a lot of stories about government, the previous government selling off a lot of the government assets at some fairs, pretty much a fair sale, and in some instances next to almost giving it away. Once we got into government, we started to realize the extent of what has happened, especially in the vehicles unit. And so the cabinet felt then that it is important for us to be able to do an inquiry onto the sales or the disposals of these assets. And it is important to do, I believe in my mind, 2 things. One is to find out what happened, and secondly then to be able to take steps into ensuring that this does not happen again.
The purpose of the official review is to go over the steps and processes that were undertaken to sell off those assets. However, there is also a likelihood, depending on what is unearthed, that those assets can be recovered. Providing assistance is the Ministry of Public Service.
The government assets are the people's assets, and certainly the Commission of Inquiry is tasked with discovering if the procedures were followed, what happened with those assets, and whatever recommendations they make, those matters will be taken to Cabinet. Now, when it comes to recovery of those assets, it's something also that the Cabinet has taken very seriously. So if it is in the view of the Cabinet that the assets should we should go after them, then certainly that's a measure that might happen as well, no?
According to Chairman Andrew Marshallek, the Commission has the authority to summon anyone who is relevant to the objective of the inquiry to come forward and testify, including former Prime Minister Dean Barrow.
As I understand it, there's no limitation as to the witnesses that can be summoned and questioned by the Commission. I mean, that includes everybody. That includes prime ministers, that includes ministers, that includes public officers, that includes private persons. The work of the Commission must be led or informed by the information that is discovered. So we will go where the evidence leads us. And the public officers who will be summoned to testify, the other persons, the witnesses who will be summoned to testify, will be those people that we believe that can assist in the discovery of the relevant evidence.
Reporting for News 5, I am Isana Cayetano.
And while the Commission will look into irregularities in those sales, what about the allegations against former Minister of Works, Rene Montero? The Attorney General's ministry is one of 3 government agencies presently looking into allegations of impropriety at the Ministry of Works under the former minister. In early January, Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing, Julius Espat, wrote to the Office of the Attorney General, Commissioner of Police, Chester Williams, and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate claims made against Montero. The allegations were that he reportedly used public assets for personal and private gains. Attorney General Magali Marinyang explains the role of her office in the probe.
There is a current investigation, and as you know, the police investigation takes precedence. So the AG Ministry will await the outcome of the police investigation, and based on the evidence that is presented to us, we will analyze and see if there is a case to recover the assets or any damages that the government suffered.
Shopkeeper in Belmopan was shot and killed after he tried to fight off a robber. The deadly incident happened last Friday in the Montero area. Abel Bardales was inside his shop along with 2 delivery men when the robber tried to hold them up. Bardales didn't comply with the thief's order and he pursued him from outside of the business. The fatal shooting was captured on surveillance footage. Police say that they don't have a named suspect, but they're seeking someone for questioning. News 5 went to the capital city today, and here's that story.
Surveillance cameras captured the shooting murder of 53-year-old shopkeeper Abel Bardales that happened Friday evening on Belen Street in Montero community in Belmopan. This video shows a Big H delivery truck outside of Bardales' shop around 3:38 that evening. The 2 delivery men enter the shop, and shortly after, a man walks up wearing what appears to be a blue sweater, face mask, and a hat, and he too enters the shop. The camera from inside shows that the robber pulled out a gun on Bardales, but the shopkeeper didn't give in. Instead, he fought off the robber, chased him outside, and that's where his pursuit turned deadly. The killer shot Bardales in the abdomen. This camera shows an injured and bleeding Bardales running away, and then he collapsed and died. ACP Joseph Maivid explains what happened inside the shop where Bardales received the first gunshot wound.
A dark complexion male armed with a handgun entered and demanded money of those persons, and in the process a struggle ensued between the assailant and Bardales, where a shot was discharged hitting Bardales. The assailant then left the area running and was followed by Bardales, and in the process he turned and fired upon Bardales a second time, causing the fatal injury.
An emotional Herschel Bardales says that his family is mourning his father, who was a respected man in the community and a father figure to many. He believes that his dad may not have been the intended target of the robbery that day. Herschel Bardales tells us that he's angry that his father was killed defending his property, a heroic act in his last moments.
You know, I was sad, I was upset. I never expect my papa to go like that. He got known like a warrior, like he always was. Because my father never, you know, he fight for everything he had, and he got known a warrior like he always was. He helped a lot of people. A lot of people respect him. Like I tell everybody, say like a father figure, you know. So I choose to believe that the target are never he. That made the 2 boys for a Big H, you know. A lot of people comment and they say, oh, you're not for fight for the shop and this and this. They don't know the reason why. My papa work hard to get where he may want. And on top of that, my sister made the you know. And I know he fight to defend my sister because he know for a fact that if nobody come in, they could have hurt my sister. He gonna fight for my sister, as well as the two bally for big age. You know, he gone down a hero in my book.
ACP Joseph Mivett cautions unarmed business owners about facing off with these robbers and killers. He says it may be safer just to report the incident after it happens.
Well, it is advisable that if you are not in possession of a weapon to defend yourself, that the most convenient thing I would say to have done was to allow if there is no way that you can defend yourself out of that, allow that person and then you call the police.
What do you mean by allow, sir?
Meaning that if a robber is pointing a gun at you and you are not in a position to defend yourself because you do not have a gun, then you must allow that process in order not to be harmed. If you do not see the opportunity that you can disarm that person, then the investigation will be carried on after that once you would have made a report.
Police say that they are looking for one suspect in connection with this murder. They are also trying to determine the value of items stolen. Reporting for News 5, I am Andrea Polanco.
The last of the remaining escaped prisoners are behind bars tonight. Police captured Michael Fox and Erwin Lanza on Sunday morning. They were the only two prisoners who remained on the run from the 28 that broke out of the prison back in October. Commissioner Chester Williams told the press today that they were able to successfully recapture all the escapees because of the public's help.
Well, I am happy to say that we have now closed that chapter, having recaptured all 28 of those escapees. You would know that over the weekend, police were able to capture Michael Fox and Erwin Lanza. They were found in the Ladyville area. They have since been charged with escaping from prison and are also expected to appear in court this morning. I want to take the opportunity to thank the public who helped us tremendously with information that led to the recapturing of all 28 prisoners, as well as to thank the police officers who worked tirelessly to ensure that we were able to get those prisoners in prison where they belong, making our country much safer.
The National Institute of Culture and History was one of the remaining statutory bodies to have a new board of directors named. Late this afternoon, the Ministry of Culture issued a release announcing the 6 persons appointed to fill the board members' position. They are Arraigned Palacio Morgan, Carla Habet, Michael Coy, Gavin Courtney, Marilyn Young, and Albert Vaughn. Palacio Morgan is the executive director of the Southern Environmental Association, while Albert Vaughn is a member of the Belize City Council. Marilyn Young is the campaign manager for Freetown Area Representative Francis Fonseca, who also sits as the Minister of Culture. Businessman Carla Habet is a board member for the National Bank of Belize, while attorney Gavin Courtney is the son of Foreign Minister Eamon Courtney. Michael Coy also sits on the board of directors for the Social Security Board. The term of office is for 2 years. Still to come, we'll tell you why parents no longer have to rush home with their children before 6 p.m.
Dear Belize, the coronavirus has swept across the world, including our
The Corozal Free Zone reopened for business today following 10 months of closure. Discussions about reopening had started soon after the general elections, and there was collaborative planning to ensure the area could open for much-needed business in the safest way possible. But when the gates opened today, it was not without its kinks. There were long snaking lines of Belizeans trying to get into the zone for work and lines of Mexicans ready to conduct business. News 5's Dwayne Moody was there for day one of business and files this report.
From as early as 7 a.m. today, traffic at the northern border with Mexico resumed as the Corozal Free Zone reopened for business. There were snaking lines of persons and vehicular traffic for more than a mile outside its entrance as foreign nationals, primarily Mexicans, accessed the zone.
This morning was a traffic jam. They were following a list provided by us, but on that list was only the employees who have came to renew their ID to work in the free zone. And if you are not on the list, they were not allowing you. So upon coming to the work today, to the free zone, I was one of them on the line. As I came to the office, I called Ms. Baptiste and I explained to her the situation, and she addressed it immediately. So we are working together with the immigration department to see how best we could channel the traffic flow coming to the Corozal Free Zone. As you know, the border are closed.
In order to cross the immigration border on the Belize side, you have to be an employee or an investor in the zone. Some 800 Belizeans have regained employment so far, from what CEO Nery Ramirez says is a soft reopening of the zone. It's a reigniting of the economy in the north after 10 months of inactivity caused by the closure of the borders due to COVID-19 pandemic.
Excited for open it again because it's a long time we are in home and like there's no profit, no life. Right now, we feeling like, yeah, we are again getting power to earn some money and give some good products to this country, Belize. 10 months is a really big deal, a really good business. We lost December also, what is our like really good season. In that we can't open, and this February is the lowest month of any year we can say. And we opening in this month, it's kind of challenging for us.
To date, there are over 800 employees who have registered or renewed their ID, which means that they are going to start to work already up to today date. So this is very happy to say because this will actually do salaries alone, which will help to do like over $700,000, imagine, a monthly base, right? So this will stimulate the local economy in the north.
But it was a ghost town today in the zone. The volume of people and activity is not what it used to be. Electrometro is one of a little over 100 businesses that have reopened due to compliance with mandatory safety requirements imposed by the Ministry of Health and Wellness for approval to operate.
As of January 28th, the health department already had inspected 105 businesses. But out of that 105 inspected, not all of them were approved. About 46 of them, which is 48.8% of them, were approved immediately because they already complied with the requirements. The remaining ones were given a recommendation what needs to be done to comply, and they will open right shortly after that. Before you enter the gate, you have a compliance officer checking temperature that you are okay. If you are above the prescribed limit, they will not allow you to come into the free zone. Secondly, they have to sanitize your hands, and thirdly, you have to walk in through the tunnel.
And even before they get to the entrance of the free zone, foreign vehicles entering the country via the Chactamal Bridge must go through a fumigation tunnel. This is manned by OIRSA.
There at the front, they have an immigration officer along with one of our OIRSA staff. They ask for their IDs. They take down their name. Once all of them are adults, because children are not allowed, they are allowed to come in. So we make the spraying with the chemical, and they line up. Basically, they just wait for 4 vehicles. Then the 4 of them spray. They come in.
Okay. Now, is there any cost associated with this?
No, no. Vehicles that are entering into the free zone, they do not need to pay for the spraying. Today it was a holiday in Mexico, so the cargo trucks, most of them were not allowed to come into Belize, but tomorrow we expect also cargo to be entering, so that will be a much difficult task to deal with.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
38 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed today. This number reflects samples processed between Sunday and today. One new COVID-19 related death was recorded, bringing the number to 302. The overall positivity rate is at 19.2%, with 11,945 confirmed cases. Of that number, 95% have recovered, leaving only 290 cases active. 10 persons remain hospitalized and 3 in the intensive care unit. The majority of the new cases were recorded in the Belize and Cayo district at 10 and 13 respectively. Today, the Ministry of Health and Wellness announced that its offices in Belmopan would be temporarily closed to facilitate urgent sanitizing of the office. We're told that a staff member has tested positive for the virus, and we can confirm that neither Minister Shabat nor the Acting Director of Health Services, Dr. Melissa Diaz, came in contact with that person. The new COVID-19 regulations of Statutory Instruments 8 and 9 of 2020 came into effect midnight last night. As we shared last week, the curfew hours have been adjusted, and some establishments like gyms and churches are now allowed to open their doors, with some restrictions still in place. Today, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams breaks down the main points of what you are allowed and not allowed to do.
In the case of curfew, where curfew now moves from 8 p.m. to now 10 p.m. and ends at 5 a.m. We also see that gymnasiums are now open. However, they can only house at any given time 50% capacity, and the management of the gym must ensure that everyone enters the gym with a mask. Yes, they're not going to work out with the mask, they'll take off the mask to work out. They must also take a log of every person who goes to the gym and work out. They must also ensure that there is sanitary materials for people to sanitize, and after every use of the equipment, the management must ensure that the equipment are clean before other persons go and use it. Churches are also allowed to be open at 50% capacity. Everybody in the church must wear a mask except for the officiating person. And the church service must not go above 1 hour. The curfew for children remain the same in terms of 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. However, parents are allowed to have their child with them up to the 10 p.m. hour.
Also included in the changes, no one can host or attend a party with persons not from the same household, and rum shops can now sell liquor until closing hours. And if you find yourself breaking those laws, you will be penalized. Commissioner Williams says that if you breached a curfew, face mask, and social distancing regulations, you will be ticketed $500. All other offenses will send you before the court. Here's how he explains it.
For a breach of the curfew, a breach of the mask regulation and the social distancing regulation, it now is a ticketed offense. And so we are in the process of preparing the tickets, and we'll be distributing the tickets countrywide for officers to issue to violators. The tickets, the person to whom a ticket is issued will have 15 calendar days to pay the ticket of $500. And every day after the 15th day that the ticket remains unpaid, the ticket goes up by $10. And the other offenses under the regulation are arrestable offenses for which the police will arrest and carries a maximum fine of $1,000. Well, the truth is, if a person do not agree with the ticket or may believe that they may have some justification, the ticket goes with what you refer to as a defendant's summons. At the bottom of the ticket, the police is going to write that out and will tell you that if it is that you do not agree, then you can take the matter will go to the court, and then you have a trial. But I believe that the ticket is going to be more expedient. A person who knows that he or she was wrong will just go and pay the ticket, as opposed to going to court and clog up the court system.
And while the curfew for adults has been extended to 10 p.m. for the next 30 days, the restriction on movement for minors remained a concern for parents, particularly those whose children are at the babysitter until after 5 p.m. when they get off work. Immediately following the press conference, the Attorney General's office went into a meeting during which those discrepancies were ironed out. This morning, Minister of Home Affairs Karim Musa provided an update.
Because of this very gray area and this discretionary use that we were putting on the police department to assess whether or not a parent is actually picking up their child to take them home, we have decided, the Attorney General's Ministry decided to just make it a proviso across the board to say that so long as children are with their parents or guardians after 6 p.m., that will be allowed. So there's no need for an excuse to be provided. So the restriction on minors is limited to minors who are out on the street by themselves.
Vendors across the country welcomed the news on Friday that the new COVID-19 regulations would give them some relief. For months, vendors were forced to relocate from their popular spots into private property if they wanted to continue selling. That has now changed, and vendors are now allowed to sell in public spaces as long as they follow the safety protocols. News 5 caught up with some vendors, but as reporter Hippolyte Novello found out, they are struggling to stay afloat.
He's a familiar face in downtown Belize City, and that's because for more than 21 years, Jerison Lopez has been selling fruits on Albert Street.
Right now it's the plum season on right now. After plum season right now coming in now is the custard apple and soursop. We usually mix those with milk and things and sell them in cups, you know.
His way of making a living is honest and modest. His determination to continue striving has brought him to the same spot every day.
Crabble season coming up after that, you know. I sell all the fruits, and once the customers they want it and I could put my hand on it, I go and get it.
But Lopez's challenge now is selling it. The business has been slow thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic.
It affected us. Yeah, it did affect me. Because they slow down business in a type of level, like with the school children. Every day the school children pass, they spend so much money with us and think. No school children passing right now, you know. It's just have to rely on the business community.
A few persons bought from Lopez, which is more than what we can say for Lawrence Mejia. He has been selling fruits and other items in front of the Belize City bus terminal for 5 years. He set up shop at 5 o'clock this morning, and by mid-afternoon, Mejia had only sold $8 of goods.
They hardly make anything because nobody buy, nobody have money, nobody on the street, they can't sell. Yeah, it's roughly. The whole day they make about $15 or $8.
So like right now, how much have you sold?
Sold about $8 today.
And how long have you been out here for this morning?
From 5:30 till now.
But now under the new COVID regulations, vendors have more freedom. They are no longer confined to sell from private property. They can now be out in public trying to make ends meet. Tamales vendor Gary Matos says he's glad that officers won't be harassing him anymore.
I used to sell, before COVID dropped down, I used to sell a lot of tamales at Dukuno. Now when COVID come, everything business gone down, slow. Sometimes you can sell out and make a piece of bread, city council harass you, police harass you, a lot of things harass you.
Matos says that business has been so bad that he has been forced to give his tamales and Dukuno for free.
I used to sell 150 tamales a day and 100 Dukuno meat, right now too slow. Sometimes I have to give it out, give it to homeless, I give this lady some tamales, Dukuno, I give the children out the street. Sometimes I can't carry them back again for her, I have to give it back.
The vendors have been asked to make sure that they and their customers adhere to the 6 feet social distancing.
They have to put things in place and make them follow protocols, you know, because the excessive piling up around, you know, the right there things will transmit, you know, between each person and things. So I don't have no problem with when they say I have to put the markers and things. Well, I don't really have to put the markers, you know. I explain to my customer, please, no gathering, please distance yourself. Sir, you are the dealer right now, miss. I'll deal with you next, please.
And everybody just holding distance and respect each other and respect the business and the authorities and make it go from there.
These vendors are hopeful that moving forward with the loosening of the regulations, a sense of normalcy will return to them. This would mean being able to keep up with the mounting bills.
You have to bring food for kids in the table. House rent, you have to pay light bill, water bill. If you don't pay light bill or water bill, then you can take it off and then cut you out, then that's out the street.
Very bad. Only with the food sell because you make food. But once a buyer sell like food, it's so bad. Really affect you big. But fight hard for a living, man. Hard.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
This morning, dozens of people once again gathered at the Lands Department in Belize City. The line of people snaked around the building on Cemetery Road. Those in line failed to adhere to safety protocols, and police had to be called in to keep order and ensure that the law is being followed. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Natural Resources Cordell Hyde also made an appearance. Minister Hyde greeted Belizeans hoping to own a piece of land, so they had formed lines at the Lands Department. The minister explains that many believe that it is only on Mondays that applications are accepted. He attempted to convince people to apply another day to reduce this crowd size. Hyde says that the ministry will need to create a new system to make the application process more efficient and safe.
It seems like everybody decided to come apply today. First time I know that. This is a result of many years of people trying to get land and being unsuccessful. And so everybody's trying to get their name in because they know that is our focus. Trying to make lands available to first-time people who don't have land. The problem is, and also we made the process a little bit easier because you made the process a little bit easier because you don't need a minister's letter to come. You can just show once you have a social security card and apply. The problem is everybody applied now, and this is a bad thing to do because of the pandemic and all of that, right? So people don't want to be left out. That is the problem. So we're going to have to try to figure out a different system because this office, to begin with, is too small. You can only accommodate a few people at a time. So I'm trying to convince people that listen, you don't have to apply now. Because the problem we have in Belize is that we don't have national lands. So we are busy trying to find government lands as close to Belize City as possible, whether it's in Hatteville or wherever. Once we find those government lands, then we will survey those and make those available to all those people who are applying. So I'm trying to say to people, you don't need to apply today. You can come and apply any other day, right? But of course, people are here from 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or whatever, so they want to take advantage of this opportunity. Some people have taken off the day to come here. So that's the challenge we have, right?
And so what are you trying to implement?
What you're trying to do is, one, tell people, try to reduce the crowd. Tell people they can go home and they can come back another day. We will have to sit with the staff and figure out how the best way to apply, to work with this. Try to figure out how best to allow people to apply without having this congregation every day.
After the break, a tragic story of a hunting trip that goes terribly wrong.
Money.
We're pleased to serve you.
A hunting trip went horribly wrong in Corozal on Sunday evening. Police say 3 men went on a hunting trip near Libertad village, and at around 6 that evening, one of the men heard some noises in the bushes and mistakenly took his hunting partner for a deer. He fired off the shots that killed his friend. At this time, police say they have labeled this incident as a death investigation, and the file will be sent to the office of the DPP for further directives.
Police were called to the riverside in Libertad village, where they met and spoke with one Orlando Matura, who reported to them that himself, along with Jaime Jimenez, also of Libertad village, and another male person, had gone hunting some 6 miles southwest of Libertad village on a farm. And upon reaching that area, they went in different directions, and during the process, sometime after 3 p.m., Matura indicated to the police that he saw movements coming from within the bushes, which whom he believed was a deer, and as a result, he fired his shotgun into that area, and when he went to check, he saw Jimenez on the ground bleeding. As a result, himself and the other male person whom he had gone hunting with were able to transport Jimenez out to Libertad. However, at that point in time, it appears that he had already died. Matura has since been taken into custody, and his firearm has also been retrieved pending the outcome of this investigation.
A 16-year-old boy has been arrested and charged for the murder of Dangriga businessman Kendrick Drysdale. Last week we told you the story of how the car wash owner was gunned down at his business. Police say they have the minor who did it, as well as the weapon that was used in the crime. At this time, police are not saying what motivated the murder. They'll only say that the accused killer is familiar with the deceased.
On Saturday, based on investigation carried out concerning the murder of Kendrick Drysdale, which had occurred in Dangriga last week, police formally arrested and charged a 16-year-old minor of Dangriga town for that murder. During the course of the investigation, a 9mm pistol was also recovered.
So is it believed that the victim was the main target in this incident?
Yes, we do believe so from the evidence gathered so far.
Has a motive been established at this time?
We are looking at several possibilities, which I do not necessarily want to go into, as I do not want to prejudice the outcome of the investigation.
Last week, Friday, we reported on the discovery of Eli Chan's body on a farm in the Montero area of Belmopan. As you heard in that interview on Friday, Chan's relatives believed that he was killed. They say that they saw injuries on the body, but tonight, police's account is different. ACP Joseph Maivet told the press today that the body didn't have any visible signs of injuries, and they're still awaiting the results of a postmortem.
Police were informed of a body in the Belmopan area, where upon arrival they observed the apparent motionless body of Eli Chan, face down on the ground. As a result, the scene was processed and the body was removed. An inspection of the body revealed that there were no visible signs of injuries. The body was removed where a post-mortem is scheduled either for today or tomorrow, which will determine the cause of death. We also know that the deceased was an alcoholic and would consume alcoholic beverages daily, and he has been frequenting the area where he was found.
Robbers targeted a gas station in Dangriga over the weekend. According to police, 3 men robbed the Puma gas station on Havana Street in that southern municipality around 6:40 on Saturday night. Police say that manager Lenford Valdez was wrapping up for the day when the robbers entered the business.
The manager of Puma gas station in Dangriga town reported to police that whilst he was preparing the day's sale for deposit, 3 dark complexion male persons, one of whom was armed with a handgun, and all 3 were wearing masks and peak caps, entered the store where they demanded money, and as a result they made off with an undisclosed amount of money, both from the manager and from one of the gas attendants. No one was injured during the process. Police are seeking 3 suspects in relation to this investigation.
Earlier in the news, you heard Commissioner Williams break down the relaxation of the COVID-19 regulations. One of the significant changes is the adjustment to the curfew hours. Now, we've heard before how the curfew has contributed to a reduction in crime. So will this adjustment cause a surge in criminal activities? Commissioner Williams says that even if criminals have any plans to break the law, their crime strategy will address those concerns. He told the media today that they will be releasing a 2-year crime strategy in the coming days, and the plan will include a targeted approach to gang violence. He expects that the implementation of this plan will see a crime reduction. Here's how Williams explains it.
We, as a department, have our strategy in place, and I think this week we're going to release the National Crime Fighting Strategy, and we're going to outline how we intend to police the country for the next 2 years, and within it have mechanism to be able to address gang violence, and we're going to apply those. And the truth is that the whole issue surrounding gangs have been here for quite some time now, and we don't expect it to go away overnight, but we are going to do our best to ensure that we can limit the amount of gang activities in this country. The police alone cannot stop crime. Crime is an issue that must be dealt with multi-sectorially. And while police would normally just address the symptoms of the effects of crime, there are other organizations who are tasked with addressing the symptoms of crime and what causes crime. And we are going to ensure that under our new crime fighting strategy, we tap into those organizations to see what they can do to help us from a social, economic standpoint. And we believe that once we do that, we should have a tremendous reduction in crime coming the end of this year.
When we come back, the chairman of the Elections and Boundaries Commission resigns. The People's United Party is rounding off its slate of candidates in all 9 municipalities, with only Dangriga and Punta Gorda remaining. Over the weekend, conventions were held in Belize City, Belmopan, San Ignacio, Santa Elena, and Benque Viejo del Carmen. The PUP 11 team for Belize City was finalized. It will be led by Mayor Bernard Wagner and councillor candidates Alan Pollard, Micah Gooding, Kaya Catus, Javier Castellanos, Edmund Kwan, Diane Riqueña, Natasha Pipersberg, Albert Vaughn, Michael Novello, and Stephanie Hamilton. Earlier today, PUP Chairman Henry Charles Usher spoke about the weekend activities.
It's important just to go through the process of how we decided on our slates. The National Executive met in December, and at that meeting they decided on two bodies: the vetting committee that will be looking at applicants, and steering committees for each municipality to determine the way forward, taking into account, of course, the COVID measures and different regulations and so on, knowing that we couldn't have these big conventions that usually come before the decision on slates. So the steering committees from each municipality decided the way forward. There were, as you know, last week we had the swearing in of our Orange Walk Town Council slate. We had the swearing in of our Corozal Town Council slate and our Town Council slate in San Pedro. The weekend just passed on Saturday. We had a convention in Belize City. It was a delegate convention based on our party's constitution, which says that you get one delegate for every 25 votes received at the last general election. So there were a total of about 707 possible delegates at Saturday's convention. The convention were just for the councillors, because only one person applied for the mayoral seat, Mayor Bernard Wagner. He went unchallenged. And at that convention on Saturday, the 10 councillors were selected by the delegates. On Sunday, we had 3 conventions in the West. We had conventions in Belmopan, again by delegates, San Ignacio, and in Benque. And all 3, the slates were chosen based on the delegates, and well, the announcements will be made today by the Secretariat now.
The successful mayoral candidates in Belmopan, San Ignacio, Santa Elena, and Benque Viejo are Sharon Palacio, Ramon Monchiquiros, and Jorge Rosales, respectively. The National Trade Union Congress of Belize has elected a new executive. President Luke Martinez will now lead the NTUCB. New executive members for the umbrella organization were chosen over the weekend during a virtual event for its 54th annual general meeting. Meanwhile, the Public Service Union, which falls under the NTUCB, will be working closely with the Minister of Public Service to revise existing regulations that govern public officers. According to Minister Henry Charles Usher, those regulations include the hiring, transfers, and promotions and terminations of government employees.
There are a lot of areas within the public service regulations that need a little tightening up, a little improvement. And we'll be looking at all of those. The union has presented a lot of updates that they would like to see happening in the regulations. So we'll be working very closely with them in terms of how we move forward with the changes having to be made in the regulations. But the regulations cover a number of issues. They cover hiring, transfers, promotions, terminations, disciplinary measures if there needs to be disciplinary measures. So there's a lot going on in that, in those regulations. Training. I'm happy to say that we just had a graduation class for secretaries, the first one in a number of years. And when they approached me back in November, I said, you know, we would like to do it, but we'll have to do it virtually. I said, yes, let's get it done. So we are having that graduation ceremony, I believe, on February 11th. It will be made public. But this is a type of work that needs to be done at the public service, needs to be done for public officers, so that they can have that independence, they can have that confidence of knowing that they're coming to their job. They know that there's a promotion mechanism in place where people don't just come in and leapfrog them for whatever reason.
Luke Martinez succeeds Marvin Mora as the NTUCB's president. His deputy is Miguel Aguilar. The Belize Port Authority wants all port development projects suspended immediately. Chairman of the Belize Port Authority, retired Major Lloyd Jones, has written to the chairman of the National Environmental Appraisal Committee, Martin Alegria, informing them that approval has been given to develop a national port policy. The policy is to declutter the port landscape and to guide the national port development agenda moving forward. Chairman Jones writes that the initiative is not expected to take more than 4 months. And until a national port policy is finalized, the Port Authority asks that all proceedings related to any port development be suspended. Just recently, environmentalists voiced their opposition to the development of Port of Magical Belize on the south coast of the Sibun River. In the letter, Jones tells Dangriga that the Belize Port Authority Act empowers the minister to grant licenses for all ports' construction and operation after consultations with the BPA. Jones says he wishes to be in a position to properly advise the minister. In a statement today, Attorney Esteban Pereira resigned from the post as chairman of the Elections and Boundaries Commission. Pereira says that at this time, the country needs unity and for government to utilize its remaining resources for the benefit of the people. So for him to remain would cause unnecessary delays. And so he resigned. Pereira was appointed to the post by the former UDP administration back in July of 2020, just months prior to the general elections. There's more news after the break, so stay tuned.
In response to COVID-19, the government of Belize has implemented strict
A new cohort of local magistrates took the oath of office as alcaldes in their respective villages over the weekend. The system, that is legally constituted form of traditional governance, is predominantly practiced in Toledo District's Maya communities. On hand for the swearing-in ceremony was Attorney General Magali Marin-Young. She told the media this morning that the incoming group of local magistrates replaces those in office for the past 2 years.
The alcaldes were sworn in this Saturday I don't have the precise numbers, but quite a few alcaldes and deputy alcaldes. There is nothing new in terms of the swearing in. As you know, that is a system that predates our contemporary court system. It's an adjudicative system that is unique to the South and unique to Mayan communities in the South. The AG ministry intends to engage in training of the alcaldes to ensure that they function properly and they know the scope of the parameters of the rules that they are to engage in with the communities.
And it's simply for continuity, right? The previous cohort were in place for how long, and these will be in place for how long?
2 years. So they are appointed every 2 years.
This morning in Punta Gorda, 17 St. Peter Claver primary school teachers lined the streets in town in solidarity with their school principal. The teachers say they are taking a stand against what they describe as an assistant local manager's tyrant administration. This morning, teachers stood outside the school to express their discontent, saying that the administrative principle continues to be undermined. Teacher Ray Martinez told News 5 that they sent a letter to the school's Board of Management in October 2020, detailing issues that teachers continue to face. 3 months have passed, and the letter has gone unanswered. Martinez says the assistant local manager has consistently overstepped her authority.
We have been discontent with the assistant local manager and her constant overriding of our administrative principal. According to the handbook of policies, the principal has the role to govern the everyday activities of the school, but our assistant local manager tends to come in and enact policies and certain things of her own idea and totally disregarding the principal. We also have 2 vice principals who I must mention are the friends of the assistant local manager, who tends to help in undermining the administrative principal as well. On the letter that was sent to the general manager, kind of explaining the areas of our discontent, we have 17 out of the 23 teachers that actually have a classroom. So it's the majority of the teachers who are discontent. Honestly, the letter that we sent was addressed to the general manager of Catholic schools on October 29th, 2020, and now we're in February, Mr. Noveland, still no concrete means of how we will sit down and address this issue. The assistant local manager that is here has done some attempts, but she is a part of the problem. How could we have somebody who is a part of the problem solve the problem?
According to Martinez, teachers at St. Peter Claver Primary School are trying to figure out why the assistant local manager is preoccupied with their school. She is responsible for 29 schools in the Toledo district. The teachers say they are also demanding that a financial report regarding the school's feeding program be made available.
And so we have been treated unfairly. Myself, I have, in the past 3 years, this is the second time they're initiating transfer from the school, despite the transfers should be requested. I have not requested any transfer, and I came January 11th, the first day of school. I was called into the assistant local manager's office to receive a letter initiating transfer. So, and a number of teachers over the years have been transferred. We've had situations where teachers transferred to rural schools and had to be brought back because the transfers were not approved by the Teaching Services Commission, which is the body that finalizes transfers or approves transfers. Because she is in charge of 29 schools in Punta Gorda. But I guess because we are immediately on the compound, we share the compound with her office, she is around so frequently that she honestly operates more like the principal than the administrative principal. which is wrong according to the policies of the handbook. Yes, the school feeding program, the vice principal is in charge of it. A little to add to that is the fact that she mentioned in a meeting that she doesn't give the administrative principal the financial report. It goes directly to the assistant local manager. And in a meeting with the assistant local manager, she said there is no such thing. She has never received a financial report from this vice principal, right?
And that's the news. Tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at News 5 Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, please remember to wash your hands, keep your social distance, and stay safe. Good night.